happened?
Hello and welcome to What the Truck Happened, the place where you get all your latest trucking news, data, and information. My name is Joko and I do the research so you don't have to, but just in case you want to do some reading, I'll put the links down in the description so you can follow up. Our story for today will be improving truck parking and better roads around the US. To better understand what is going on, we need to go back in time a little bit. On November 15th, 2021, President Biden signed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, into law. This was called the largest long-term U.S. infrastructure and economy investment in the nation's history. It would provide $550 billion of available funds to improve on the current infrastructure, whether it is to restore or build new truck parking, highways, roadways, etc. In 2021, the Federal Highway Association issued a memo outlining some of the priorities of this new IJA law. Fast forward a year later, in December of 2022, a new bill was introduced to Congress, the so-called Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act. The Department of Transportation would actually provide grants to private or public entities to work on improving current truck parking spaces and providing new ones for commercial motor vehicles. On February 1, American Trucking Association Chris Spear addressed the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee the following.
We need truck lanes, we need parking, we need new bridges, we need more capacity to move the freight. We're burning fuel and we're emitting CO2 just sitting there. That is the concern. And if this trend continues, I can see that being resolved, but I don't see any need for the memo.
It was apparent that the memo issued by the FHA back in 2021 was not designed to improve on the current infrastructure, and therefore a lot of the funds were misused or misplaced. According to an article of the American Trucking Associations, the FHA's memo issued priorities that ran counter to the bipartisan bill's intent by directing funds to highway maintenance and non-highway projects over investments in expanding highway capacity. Instead of IJA's funds and grants to be used towards improving the road infrastructure and increasing the number of truck parking spaces, the funds were used incorrectly. Right after American Trucking Association's president and CEO Chris Spear's comments, the FHA actually realized their mistakes and they updated the language of the memo so that it goes more in par with what the actual bipartisan infrastructure law was outlining. What remains now is to see how the funds of the Truck Parking Safety and Improvement Act, how they will be implemented towards, building upon more truck parking spaces and improving on the current road infrastructure. It will provide $755 million in competitive grant funds available to the public. These grants will be directly provided by the Department of Transportation to states, metropolitan planning organizations, local governments, and tribal governments for projects that improve the safety of commercial motor vehicle operators and provide parking for commercial motor vehicles on federal aid highways or on facility with reasonable access to such a highway or a freight facility. Basically, any entity may have access to these grants, and not only that, public entities may also hire private entities to help them with said projects. Some of those eligible projects that are included within this act would be the improvement of rest areas, highways, way stations, and so on. But it should be noted that there are certain limitations to this bill, and one of the biggest limitations is that it does not include electric vehicles or the building of electric truck charging places. My comment to that would be we may still be early in the development of the electric charging vehicle infrastructure, but at some point the administration needs to focus on that as well, as we see more and more electric vehicles are actually joining the market. When it comes to improving on truck parking spaces and infrastructure, we're already seeing some improvements. The Missouri Department of Transportation is already taking things into action. Two Missouri rest areas will be torn down. They will be permanently closed until the fall of 2023 to be repurposed as truck parking spaces. Now the entire building will be torn down and the entire parking lot will be repurposed to accommodate for truck parking spaces, and they will also install vault toilets for truck drivers as well. On the morning of Thursday, March 16, Missouri DOT will permanently close the southbound Platte County I-29 Dearborn and Clinton County I-35 Lathrop rest areas. The closure includes parking. Although I would argue that the states that need the most truck parking would be the eastern states, states in the East Coast, Pennsylvania, New York, Carolinas, Connecticut, and so forth. Truck parking is so scarce in those states that a lot of truck drivers just avoid going there and rather prefer the Midwest or West Coast. If any place needs improvement on truck parking, it will definitely be the East Coast. DOT report actually found that 98% of truck drivers are struggling with finding proper and safe parking space. The same report found that 70% of drivers have to violate their hours of service rules in order to find a safe place to sleep. And this is why a lot of drivers are forced to break their hours of service and end up, getting violations and fined by their companies for reasons that are beyond them. We definitely need to see some improvements when it comes to truck parking spots all over the US. So hopefully this bill will actually do some good rather than line the pockets of administrators and greedy politicians. That was it for your News Digest today. Hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell so you don't miss any future videos, and I'll see you in the next one.
What the truck happened?